Viewers, pricing can range pretty dramatically from neighborhood to neighborhood here in San Miguel de Allende. It's really important to know the different neighborhoods, the price ranges that each of them offer, so that you'll kind of know where to focus on the different neighborhoods when you're looking in San Miguel. They vary quite a bit.
Hi, viewers. Welcome. I am Maya, your interview host for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services here in San Miguel de Allende in central Mexico. Today, we're having a conversation with Greg Gunter, broker and co-owner of the sole Berkshire Hathaway Home Services office here in San Miguel de Allende. Hi, Greg.
Good morning, Maya. It's rainy season. It's nice and comfy and cool. Don't you love it?
I love it. It's great. And viewers, for those of you searching for homes for sale in San Miguel de Allende, today we'd like to give you a feel for the range of prices in the various neighborhoods of our little town. Armed with that knowledge of price ranges, perhaps you'll have a better feel for what neighborhood to focus on when searching for homes to buy in San Miguel. Now, San Miguel has about 81 postal codes. That's a lot for a little town of only 150,000 people. But as Greg will mention, the majority of home sales to American and Canadian expats only occur in about 13 neighborhoods of San Miguel, all of which are profiled on Greg's website. We'll leave a link below in case you want to check those out. In fact, here's a screenshot of the city map on his site. You'll see them shown here and can get a feel for their proximity to the center of town. Greg, let's start with a general question. Is there any sort of general rule of thumb buyers looking for homes in San Miguel can use as a basic guideline to pricing?
Sure, Maya. You know, when I initially connect with my clients for the very first time, I always send in this Q&A info handbook. It's about 15 pages of questions that I've accumulated over the years from my clients. And all my buyers tell me they find it very informative. I think you all would too, viewers. If you'd like to watch from my contact at the end of the video, I'm happy to send it to you if you'll ask. It's very helpful. Let me also mention that you'll see some video footage of some of the neighborhoods spliced in as I'm speaking here. So you'll see a lot of good footage there. Be sure to visit my website as well to see more comprehensive info about these 13 neighborhoods we're going to talk about. I've got videos and a little bit more information on each of those neighborhoods. I think you'd really enjoy seeing the neighborhood videos. Now, you know, many of us expats that are living here, including me, and most of my home buyers seem to look for the same home parameter. We all love the concept that we're like a small European village, you know, where you can walk everywhere. And indeed, that's still true of much of San Miguel. There's a substantial demand for living within about a 15-minute flat walking distance radius. Remember, my demographic's a little older, so they like that flat walking distance, typically, you know, from the town square. Now here, our town square is called the Jardín, and it's visually anchored by our large Eiffel Tower-like icon, which is that pink-spired parochial church that you always see in the tourist photos. There's obviously a lot more demand for being within walking distance, and so that demand makes it more expensive to be within that walking distance. So the general rule of thumb that I always tell my clients is that home values in San Miguel are based on your sight line and your walking distance to the parochia. Now, if you live 2 blocks from the parochia, but a big tree blocks your view, that might drop your price by $50,000, more or less. And as far as walking distance, I tell my clients that even though it's not a precise, you know, scientific calculation, home prices can drop by about 15 to 20K for every 30 seconds further walking distance you are from the Jardín. So the further out you are, the more affordable. That's why when buyers ask me how far the walking distance is for a house, I try to be as precise as possible. You know, some realtors will guesstimate and go, oh, it's about 14 minutes. I'll go, no, it's 12 and a half minutes. We try to be a little more exact.
Yes, I mean, all of us locals love to walk, and also that keeps us healthy, right? All right, Greg, let's talk about price brackets and their corresponding neighborhoods. Let's start with our real budget buyers, people that are on a lean budget. What defines a lean budget in San Miguel, and what neighborhoods and areas should those buyers search?
That's a good point, Maya. You know, the definition of a lean budget can vary pretty dramatically through Mexico, right? I sometimes get buyers that are calling me and hoping they can find a nice home in a good area close to Central for $200,000. And I have to say, gosh, you know, we sold that home back in 1985. Sorry. You know, San Miguel's been named the #1 small city in the world 5 different years by Condé Nast Traveler. By the way, we just got the #1 city again by Condé Nast, by Travel and Leisure magazine. I think that's the 5th designation for travel and leisure also. Those kind of accolades, of course, make everyone want to live here, understandably. I mean, that's part of why I live here too. I love it. I've been here 15 years. You know how supply and demand works. The more demand means higher prices, and our home values appreciate steadily here every year. Every year we get named a #1 city in the world, the home prices go up a little bit more. Now, you know, we're widely considered the most expensive city in Mexico, but we're still a real value compared to the US, especially for cost of living expenses, okay? Now let's talk about 2 different home options for our budget buyers who are on a lean budget, for instance. The first option will be condominiums. And the overwhelming majority of those condo options are on the outskirts of town, which means they're not walking distance to the Jardín. So they're not quite as popular with the American and Canadian expats. We'll flash some of the better known resale condo communities on screen so you'll see some of those names. But all these condo communities offer American style amenities. Some even have on-site restaurants and spas even. Now, condo prices from these complexes can begin at around $275 and run up to about the mid 300 range, upper 300 range, something like that. A minority of condo options now might be still found within walking distance of the Jardín, but there's not that many. You know, it takes a large piece of land to create a condo complex, so you don't often find enough land within the walking distance radius. However, there are about 3 or 4 larger complexes with amenities, you know, the pools and clubhouses and stuff. And those that are within that walking distance can range from about 3.25 to about 400. As an example, I just sold a penthouse in Puente Viejo. That's one of the complexes of the ones that I'm talking about here that you'll see on screen that is walking distance. It's about a 12-minute walk to the Jardín. I just sold a penthouse for $415, just to give you an example. A penthouse means you own the roof terrace above you. So that's a good example of something that is walking distance to town, to the Jardín at least. And then there are smaller, you know, 4-plex and 6-plex condo projects that are built as infill projects around town in areas like San Antonio or Guadalupe, areas like that. And they won't have the common area amenities, but they'll run about the same prices, okay? They're going to run about that 3.25 to maybe 4.25, 415 sometimes in that price range. And then finally, for budget buyers, let's say below the 400,000 price range that don't want to live in a condo, but they still want a safe environment in an area of all finished construction, so they look a little bit more like a nicer neighborhood. Those buyers should look to the newer peripheral neighborhoods of town. So again, not really walking distance, but kind of on the periphery, still within town, like Paseo Real, parts of La Lajona, Mesa de Malanquin, you know, neighborhoods like that that are a little further out of town, or even further out, like a 15 or 20-minute drive to Rancho Los Labradores. They have smaller villas there, and those will all run about that same price range, under the 400 price range. I'm just selling one in Labradores next week, and it will close at about 330. These homes are all newer and all have all finished construction, all 4 sides of the home, so that makes them more attractive as a neighborhood environment. Now, you'll find that when you look on the internet, you know, you're doing some research on your own on the internet, and you find some amazing values for an attractive home, and you wonder, what's the catch, right? Remember that old adage, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Beware. There are some rare finds like those sprinkled throughout the peripheral and older indigenous communities that are you know, not walking distance, #1. And these older indigenous communities are full of unfinished construction, you know, raw brick walls, rebar sticking from the roofs, more graffiti, a little more trash in the streets, things like that. These neighborhoods often don't meet the visual requirements or safety requirements of many of our buyers, you know, especially our buyers coming from the US and from Canada. So be sure you understand the neighborhood location when you see what you think is a real value. That's where a valuable realtor really comes into play to give you some honest feedback about the neighborhood that you're looking at.
Exactly, Greg. I also think the visual appeal of our city radiates out from the Jardín. The further out you get, the less attractive the neighborhood in some cases. So now why don't we jump to what we might call our middle tier buyers. What might they expect and where should they look?
You know, Maya, I think it would be fair to say our middle tier would be about the 400 to 750 range, okay? And you'll find a far broader selection of neighborhoods with this offering, okay? A lot more options within this price range. Many of them that are within that magical walking distance radius of about 15 minutes, like I talked about. Now, while you'll still rarely find a home in Central or Guadiana in that price range, you should look to neighborhoods like the affordable parts of San Antonio and Guadalupe. And I say affordable parts because both of those neighborhoods have areas that run higher than that. And then the newly gentrified neighborhoods like Obraje and Azteca, both of which border Centro and makes them popular because they're still within that 15-minute walking radius. Now, if you don't mind a bit of an uphill climb, you can on occasion find homes in this price range in Balcones or Atascadero, and even in further afield neighborhoods like El Paraíso, where you're probably not going to be walking from El Paraíso, but you could catch a bus or, you know, or take a taxi. Those are going to be kind of the mid-tier 400 to 750 range.
Yes, Greg, I recall you saying that the uphill neighborhoods can offer better value simply because they're uphill. So now let's talk about what might you consider the upper tier of the market.
You know, I'd say our upper tier here, we are a little more expensive in San Miguel. So I'd say our upper tier here would range from about that 750 mark up to maybe about $1.5 million. Now, at that price range, you clearly get a lot closer to the Jardín, and you can find smaller homes in Centro, even in that price range, of course. Again, the further out from the Jardín, the more value. So you might find that you can buy an amazing uphill estate in Atascadero or Balcones, and sometimes even Ojo de Agua, excuse me, which is our Beverly Hills of San Miguel, simply because it's not a flat walk to the Jardín. So better values in those areas up there. You know, what might be $1 million, $2 million, something like that in Centro might be only $1.5 million or $1.25 million up in those neighborhoods. And you can certainly get some great homes in the Tony parts of San Antonio and Guadalupe, even Guadiana, always in neighborhoods like Vista Antigua, kind of a little further out of town. Now, this price range in the 750 to $1.5 million will get you, you know, more customized and better finishes, more natural stone, more carved cantera, more detailed wrought iron, nicer cabinetry, better doors and windows. You know, even some designer homes that have been upgraded by a designer's touch. The interiors will have been done by a designer in many cases. Now, note that homes in this price range will be all custom, okay? Very little of that will be from Home Depot. Everything here is, you know, almost nothing comes from a box down here. And you'll note that these gorgeous homes, they'll run about, for that same size of home, will run about 1/5 of the cost of homes on the coast in the US, like California, New York, and about 1/3 of the cost of homes in the central part of the United States. Much better customized finishes for a fraction of the cost. Now, this upper tier pricing range is a good place to mention that there are a number of gated communities outside of town for buyers that like the idea of a country setting with more land and perhaps greener views instead of city views. Everybody has their own taste, right? There are a lot of gated vineyard communities like Santísima Trinidad and Viñedos San Lucas and Viñedos San Miguel that offer a very Tuscan experience. I do love that Tuscan experience. I'm Italian in another life, so they'll have lots of olive trees and grapevines. They actually harvest the grapes for wine in these communities. Now, there are other gated communities outside of town that offer a more equestrian experience, and those would be like Otimi or Rancho La Loma. Lots of horse boarding there and horse events. Actually, we've become the equestrian capital of Mexico. Otimi has FEM events once a quarter at least. And then there are other gated communities that can offer the full range of home styles, every imaginable style, but still with common area amenities. Neighborhoods like Candelaria and Hacienda La Persita, again, all gated further out of town. Now, these communities out on the outskirts of town are better suited to homeowners who don't come to town too often. The drive to the Jardín can range from 15 to 25 minutes to get into a restaurant. So it's a whole different lifestyle, but many people like that lifestyle of being a lot further out of town. That's another option in that upper tier price range.
Thank you, Greg. And while we used to think there were rarely homes above $1.5 million in San Miguel de Allende, but that's not so much the case anymore, is it, Greg?
You know, my last interview with the Wall Street Journal, I was saying how pre-pandemic, the city here sold about a dozen seven-figure homes a year. And post-pandemic, and this has been continuing every year since the pandemic, we're selling 35 to 40 seven-figure homes every year, with prices that will climb up to $7 million. I remember the first $3 million home that we sold in the city years and years ago when I was kind of early in the career. probably 10 or 11 years ago, something like that. I've been doing this 13 years. And we thought that was amazing. And we've sold 4 or 5 homes in just the last year alone that are above 3 million. So our prices are climbing. It's been interesting to see. I tell my clients that we're going through the Aspenization process. In other words, we're getting pricier, like Aspen, Colorado, which is another world-class destination, just like us. They haven't been ranked the #1 city in the world 5 times like we have, but it's still a world-class destination. But the difference, even though we might be going through that Aspenization process, is that at least the artists and the teachers and the firefighters can still live here in the same city in San Miguel, unlike some of those other super expensive places. So also, unlike Aspen, you can also find homes here in every price range. You just need to work with a good realtor who will show you homes within your budget range, and that's where the neighborhoods vary. Now, I must advise you, however, be honest with your realtor about your expectations versus your budget. You can't ask for a home in an all gentrified neighborhood with a yard and a garage and granite countertops and say your budget's only $400,000. That's just probably not going to happen. Be realistic with your expectations with your realtor. You should also search the MLS. Your realtor can share that link with you so that you can do your own research on the MLS and get accustomed to price ranges and what the homes will look like at those various price levels.
Great feedback, Greg. Do you have any other advice for our viewers ready to buy a home?
Yes, I'd really probably stress that old real estate adage about location, location, location being the overriding factor in San Miguel de Allende, probably more so than in the U.S. We've all heard that, but I mean, it's really, really super true down here. Now, like in the U.S., better locations are safer investments and appreciate more, and they'll sell quicker. But the flip side, that is being aware of the micro neighborhoods within a larger neighborhood. That's something that's really important, that location rule again. For instance, talking about the micro neighborhoods, San Antonio is one of our largest neighborhoods here. There are areas that are super popular with expats, and then there are also areas that I won't even show to my clients. And they're all within that big neighborhood called San Antonio, okay? So you need to know those micro neighborhoods. That's where that location rule comes into play. Even with the good areas of a neighborhood, the safety and quality of the street can vary from one block to the next. So you need to be sure that you're working with a very knowledgeable and trustworthy realtor who will really steer you away from those questionable areas and make sure that they understand, your parameters and really what you're looking for. That's why I always tell my buyers, I want you to like me 3 months or even 3 years after you buy your home. So that's why I won't show you areas that I wouldn't buy a home for my mama.
Yes, and also, Greg, you've owned multiple homes here yourself, and so I know you have personal experience with your own pocketbook, not just as a realtor. It seems best if home buyers always work with a homeowner realtor. They've got skin in the game, so to speak. All right, viewers. Well, you've heard from Greg about 4 price ranges in San Miguel and what neighborhoods to focus on to meet your budget needs. Be sure to also see his video titled The Range of Home Prices in San Miguel de Allende, From Nada to Prada, where Greg actually takes you inside a home representative of each of those price ranges. It's a visual treat to see the topic we discussed today in real life. So team, be sure to visit Greg's YouTube channel, like this video, and subscribe to see more of these fun, informative videos. Great to see you again, Greg. Until next time.
Thanks, Maya. It's been fun. It's always fun doing these interviews. And team, come on down. Let me show you some of the neighborhoods here. I'll get you accustomed to town. Even if you're not ready to buy a home yet, I often have clients that come down. And so show me the neighborhood so I can kind of get a feel of what I can buy in different neighborhoods. And I'd love to do that. Come on down. Let's take a tour.
Bye, Greg. See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.